In introducing this session, one of the things, including about our breakfast conversation just now, is the language that is used. I don't mean it was bad language, but the language that was used around any of the developments that happened. I remember, of course, and it's a question that lots of us are still asked, especially in regard to native title and other issues to do with country, is, well, why do Aboriginal people call themselves traditional owners? I thought, whoever thought, that the connection was that Aboriginal people didn't own the land, that the land owned Aboriginal people. Sure, you are custodians, etc. That is a conversation that is still going on in our communities, and I can see by the nodding of heads that I'm not the only one who hears that conversation. When that question is asked of me, I say, we've actually assumed non-Indigenous language. Custodianship is not something, in the way that we understand it, that non-Indigenous people necessarily understand it. You understand ownership. So we've changed our language to try to suit. It causes for some confusion and eventually can come back to bite us. So some of this conversation, I think, can be challenging in terms of what is the language that we want to use. Why are we talking about Indigenous enterprise when so many of our people are still unemployed? Or have we jumped straight to enterprise because we can't get the employment question right? There's some of the things that I'd like to unpack through the course of this. But first, I'd like our panellists to tell us a little bit more about themselves from the perspective of why they're here and what motivates them in terms of this space. So Natalie, if I could start with you.
Well, the reason why I'm here is really simple. I just have a fundamental belief in Indigenous entrepreneurship and its power. And that's why I do what I do, and that's why I agreed to start up the Australian Indigenous Minority Supply Council, because I fundamentally believe that Indigenous entrepreneurs are doing great things now and will do even greater things in the future, and are the game changers for our peoples and our economy in the future. So it will be Indigenous enterprise that actually helps take our communities beyond the gap and create economic prosperity and sustainability for all Australians.
And Neil, your motivation?
It's very similar to Natalie's, and I guess the reason why I came across was to actually talk about some of the business success stories that are around the country and share some of those. Often we sit back and people will say, well, I don't know where an Aboriginal business is, or I've never heard of one, or I've never seen one, but there's an enormous amount of success stories across the country with businesses that are start-ups to very established businesses that have been operating for many years. So that's part of the reason why I'm here. But the other thing is just actually come and share with people some of the personal stories that I come in contact with about there are people who struggle in business. There are people who have looked at business as an opportunity for self-employment and it hasn't worked out for them. And to talk about some of the realities about that. So while the broader picture is that I'd love to see more people in business, more entrepreneurs, more success stories, and for us to be talking about this in very common terms that business ownership is a normal thing for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I think there's some of the other stuff which is around the success that's already happening for us to share. There's a lot of people who are already at this conference, or people who weren't at the conference yesterday, who you know of or who are working with, who have witnessed some of the success. And I think it's time that we start talking about that as opposed to the deficit model where, you know, people fall over, they fail. We've heard enough of that for way too long. And it's time to start talking about the positive stuff.
And Marcia, if I could ask you, please.
Well, I came into this area as a researcher. 10 years ago, I started working on a research project to look at agreements with Indigenous people because of the 1998 amendments to the Native Title Act. I think most people have seen our website, the ATNS website. We get about 5 million hits a year from people who want to know about agreements. I think about 16% of those hits are from America. I suspect that what's going on is that businesses are checking out relationships with Indigenous people, how companies are faring with Indigenous people in Australia as a part of their research on their, standing in the market. I know superannuation companies do that. So, I suspect, I don't have proof, but I suspect that relationships with Indigenous people in 10 years has become, a part of the, assessment of a company's, standing in the marketplace. They've got, the kind of intelligence that they collect on companies. And so with all the research we've done, we've put out 4 books, journal articles, discussion papers, we've held forums, workshops and so on. What I've noticed in that time, what I've written about is the radical change in the way that corporate social responsibility and social licence to operate are interpreted. And so, in 10 years we've gone from mining areas with, a handful of Aboriginal workers, and as I said in my Boyer lecture at Argyle in 2000, 2 of the 4 workers at Argyle were gardeners. Now 25% of the workforce is Indigenous. Same at Weipa, 25% of that workforce is Indigenous. Rio Tinto nationally is over 8%, FMG it's 8%. You just look at all the figures. And what has happened is that I'm going on for too long, I'm sorry. Is we've got the largest Indigenous industrial workforce ever in Australia's history. And I just don't understand why people don't say something about it. And, remark on how extraordinary that is. Instead the media, constantly got stories about, do you like Noel Pearson or do you like Chris Sara? It's just so dumb, and it's like, it's almost taboo to talk about the biggest Indigenous industrial workforce in Australia's history. We're not allowed to talk about that. We're not allowed to talk about Aboriginal millionaires. Have you ever seen a newspaper article on an Aboriginal millionaire? Has anyone? You haven't even written one. They're taboo subjects. They're taboo subjects. So actually, personally, if you ask me personally, apart from my, research and professional interest, personally, I think we're on the cusp of a big cultural change, right? We're moving, as Neil said, from the deficit model to a new way, we are a new way of talking about ourselves. We're training other people to talk about us differently. We've moved past the master-slave model. We've moved past the master race, inferior race model. And now we're down to, it's business, folks. This is business, and we want rational relationships, adult to adult relationships. And look, A, it's fun. B, it's doing so much good, more good than any government policy ever did. And, it's inherently interesting.
Marcia, if I could stay with you for a moment, because I know that a number of people in the room were here yesterday and would have heard your presentation, but a number of others of us didn't have that opportunity. Could you tell us just an abridged version of that in terms of your views on transforming native title rights into economic strengths, please?
Okay, so I've been hanging out with the Minerals Council of Australia gang and the and Brian White from the National Native Title Council and a bunch of tax lawyers and various other researchers that I work with. And over time, we've come to the conclusion that there's a series of policy imperatives that are missing. It took us 5 years to get through to government that native title payments from companies to native title groups who conclude land access deals they're not public money, it's private money. So the government started out thinking, this was about 8 years ago, that they could step in and take that money and spend it on essential services. Eventually, and you know, they're all, you should read the discussion papers. It's very interesting how utterly confused people are, as you say, when it comes to Aboriginal property. In the tax department, in Attorney Generals and in Treasury, the bureaucrats thought, they were thinking, see the subtext, Aborigines can't have property because the land owns them. They don't own the land owns them. So nothing is Aboriginal property, therefore we can take it.
I'm sure they'll pull back.
The tax department. So this year, there was, you know, a bill, did you see it? It was about one paragraph big, saying that, you know, native title payments are not accessible for tax purposes. 8 years? It took 8 years to come to that conclusion. See, this is wrong. You know, it's inefficient. You know, let's say it, it's stupid racism. It's really dumb racism. And, you know, how many thousands and thousands of dollars have gone into us trying to tell them the plain fact of the matter? They can read the law as well as anybody else can. What's wrong with them? So, you know, that's the problem right there. So we need to set up a rational relationship with government. We all need to get together because, you know, companies that employ Indigenous people, companies that have procurement policies with Indigenous companies have transaction costs. And, you know, some of them are wearing transaction costs that, you know, they don't have to wear. They, you know, they can go to 457 visas, it's cheaper. They can go to FIFO workforces, it's cheaper, but they're prepared to wear the transaction costs. So therefore, they're putting their own money on the line for Indigenous development. That's what's happening, isn't it? Yeah? Make your own room. So, why isn't that tax deductible? Why isn't that kind of transaction cost tax deductible? Some of them are, because, you know, they've bundled them up in transaction costs, but let's be explicit. Let's be explicit about the transaction costs of partnering up with Indigenous companies to make sure they have the expertise to continue in business, you know, to scale up. Right? That's my argument.
Can I tease that out a little more? Are you able to tell us any native title agreements that exist where part of the agreement, I'm trying to shy away from dividend, but that kind of idea, is actually in company shares? Is that happening? Should it happen? Or would it be on our agenda?
It should be. You need a good mineral economist to tell you in each case whether or not it's a good idea. But yeah, definitely, equity deals ought to be on the table. And of course, native title representative bodies don't put equity deals on the table because native title representative bodies employ native title lawyers. We need good commercial lawyers and financial advisors and mineral economists. In the mix, in the negotiations, to give us the advice. Because you know, I'm not being insulting, and you know, I'm not being disrespectful, but you've got baby lawyers coming into the native title representative body world, straight out of law school. You know, their big dream is to go to Europe next year or something, you know, or Bali for Christmas. And they can't imagine that actually their job is to make sure that these agreements are sustainable, worth everybody's while, don't take away Aboriginal rights, put Aboriginal people in a box seat to participate in the economy, and however you do that, that's what their job is, and they don't understand it because they're too young, they're too trapped in the romantic view of Aborigines to get it. They just don't get it. We need hard-headed, you know, monsters from Collins Street on our side. That's what we need. That's what we need, because some of the agreements are just useless, right? And the legal advice, honestly, it's useless. And Aboriginal people don't know. They don't know that they're getting useless legal advice. That's the problem right there. Yeah, you push my buttons.
Good, my job is done. No. But leading on from there, and your comments about procurement and transaction costs, Natalie, can you tell us a little bit more about AIMSC? Why, what it does, how does one get involved, and what you see as the beneficial impact of it?
So, in terms of what it is, it's essentially a dating agency for business. That's how we describe ourselves at AIMSC. And it's a useful metaphor for really what we're trying to achieve is integration of Indigenous owned, controlled and managed firms into the supply chains of the countries and the world's largest buyers. So if we can get the largest companies in Australia, the largest government buyers in Australia, and some of the largest companies in the world to buy from Indigenous business, we figured that's one of the quickest ways to close the gap on Indigenous disadvantage because of the multiplier effect that creates. If we grow Indigenous business, that creates jobs for Indigenous people, creates wages, and then there's some of the research on the multiplier effect is that it's about a 45% multiplier of return in local economies. So that's what we're trying to create, and it's all driven by growing the Indigenous business sector through market creation.
How does one become a certified supplier, and how does one then link with those suppliers through AIMSC in terms of doing business with those suppliers?
Yeah, so we operate like a mini market, a mini economy, and we go to the market and we find buyers who are prepared to commit to certain responsibilities in order to do business with Indigenous business. So what we focus on is not the transactional, we focus on working with buyers who are really prepared to change the way that they buy goods and services so that their procurement practices and their supply chain are more inclusive of Indigenous business. So we have about 60 of Australia's top 200 companies on the board as members. All of the largest purchasers in Australian government, including Department of Defence, as members of AIMSC. So they sign up to become members, and their CEOs make a personal commitment to supply diversity, and they also commit to a minimum level of spend every year. We then go to the market and find the Indigenous businesses. So we look for commercial entities. They have to provide a good or service in a B2B environment. So we're not after B2C suppliers. We're after those businesses that can supply to a business buyer. And we look for those businesses that are majority owned by Indigenous Australians, the CEO is Indigenous, and the company is pretty much controlled by Indigenous people. Now, I said company, but we also certify sole traders, so you don't have to be an incorporated company. You can be a partnership, you could be a discretionary trust, you could be a company trust, you can be a unit trust, you can be a sole trader. So long as you supply a good or service on commercial terms, we can certify that you are Indigenous owned and controlled, and then we connect you. That's the core of our business, is the connection between the suppliers and the buyers.
And what differences are you seeing in terms of Indigenous businesses and enterprise, at least partially because of their relationship with AIMSC?
Yeah. So from an economic impact point of view, because I love facts and figures and numbers, because that gives you a really good sense of the benefit. We've been in operation for just over 3 years now, and in that time we've seen over $70 million worth of transactions or business activity between our corporate buyers and Indigenous suppliers. And we're talking about businesses that predominantly their annual gross revenues are under $100,000. So if you think of $70 million over about 150 Indigenous businesses whose annual revenues are under $100,000, that's a lot of income for that size of business. So what we've seen in terms of growth of that cohort is a 5% net job growth for Indigenous Australians in those businesses over the last 3 years. The growth rate for non-Indigenous employees has also grown as well. It's about a 50-50 ratio at the moment, so at the same rate. And we're also seeing companies grow in terms of revenues as well. What we've seen in terms of the aggregate sales across our businesses year on year is a 100% growth year on year. So it's all pointing in the right direction. And I'll talk about it a little bit more in my keynote this morning around the value of investing in Indigenous business, but there is a significant economic benefit. In terms of jobs created, revenues created, and then the multiplier effect of that. But in terms of social and cultural benefit, what actually really inspires me is seeing through AIMSC and through the growth of their businesses, Indigenous entrepreneurs being celebrated for their success and having their profiles raised so that we are going to be reading eventually about Indigenous multi-millionaires and billionaires who have built their businesses from scratch, and they in turn will be role models for the generations to come. So this is changing mindsets. It's not just changing mindsets in the corporate and government space about what Indigenous business can and can't do, but it's also changing mindsets in our own community.
Before we move on, can I get an indication from the room, just a hands up, from anyone who works in a business which is an AIMSC registered supplier or who is a member of AIMSC? Okay. One of the questions that I want to get to towards the end of our panel discussion is, so don't answer it yet, is what does each one of our panellists, what would they like all of you individually as well as collectively to take away from today as an action that you will do? That's maybe one of the spaces that you can go into. And I'm sure, because I've heard Natalie present on the business advantages of the work of AIMSC, that if you're lucky enough to go to that presentation, you'll be further inspired. But before we do that, Neil, you've been sitting there quietly and a little bit off the hook, but no more. Can you tell us a little bit more about your different roles, especially as a leader in business yourself, your book, How to Start a Successful Aboriginal Business in Australia, and the Aboriginal Business magazine, and on that middle bit, the How to Start a Successful Aboriginal Business in Australia, could you maybe unpack any differences, if there are any, about if that was just how to start a successful business in Australia? What's different, if there is?
A number of years ago I wrote a book called How to Start a Successful Aboriginal Business, and the reason why I gave it that title was to attract people who were Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, and who were thinking about buying or starting a business. At that time there was very few resources. The resources that were out were mainstream business ones, and the reality is that the book itself contains the same stuff that I would teach in a business school anywhere else. So it's consistent stuff. The only thing that is different is it's written in a way and it's pitched to people using examples of some Aboriginal companies that have failed, some that have done all right, and about how people can get into business. So the purpose of writing it was, I wrote it in 2005, published it in 2006. And the reason why, there were a number of businesses that I would come into contact on a regular basis. A number of people were asking, how do I get into business? And it's all right to say, well, go and do a small business course, do something, but we wanted something that was short, concise, to the point, that contained information that was accurate. So I decided to write it. And I wasn't going to sit around and wait for other people to come out with something. There were an enormous amount of resources that are available. There still are online, that are free, that people can access, that people can use that if they want. So we're going into a second print run, and there's another one that's coming out this year, which is how to grow your business. So it's focusing on companies or businesses that are trading, that are turning over $500,000 a year, and talking about growth plans and taking them to the next level. I think some of the stuff that we hear about businesses, we have inbuilt biases in us, all of us do, whether you're black or white. And in the business space, we have a lot of bias that's there, where people historically have seen Aboriginal businesses being in arts and culture and stuff like that. And they are still there, and that is fantastic, and they're some of our foundation businesses. But what people need to realise is that businesses have changed. We have people who operate in every single industry, in every profession. And that's something hard for people to understand because we're still thinking about cottage industries and things like that. In Brisbane, for example, we have a business that sells nitrogen, the medical supply for nitrogen stuff now. It's Aboriginal in the sense that it's owned by an Aboriginal person and their family. But their product and service that they provide is mainstream. It's the same with my company and a number of the companies that I know in the room that are Aboriginal provide services that are mainstream services. Our companies are Aboriginal through our ownership. The profits of our companies go back into our families and into our communities. That's the difference. So when we ask people to buy from a business and it's an Aboriginal business, all of a sudden the blinkers go up and go, oh, here we go. We've got this business that's going to fail. It's not going to be able to supply. But in actual fact, there's businesses that have been operating for a period of time who can supply goods and services. But those inbuilt mechanisms, those inbuilt biases that are existing, where people go, oh, I don't know where to find them. Now, for many years, I built a career in the employment industry. 20 years ago, I started writing Aboriginal employment strategies. Now, across this country, people are still thinking, oh, we can't do this. We can't find people for jobs. Well, that's nonsense. There are people who are looking for work. You know, in this country, we've been talking about a skill shortage for a number of years, and yet we're still saying we can't find people. In the business world, here we are at the cusp of something where there have been businesses that have been trading, and the trailblazers, we refer to the businesses that have been around for 20 years or more. They've been out there, getting on with business, not worrying about anyone else or just doing business. Now we're at a stage where some of our barriers come up, which are really honest. Some of the procurement people we can't find them, we don't know where they are, it's a real challenge, there's no Aboriginal businesses. Now, we're not going to have some of the multinationals that we see. A piece of work that I did recently was for Lang O'Rourke on the IPEX stuff that they're looking at up in the Northern Territory. And they were looking for someone to help them build their cryo tanks. Now, it's a specialty. Now, it's more than likely there's not going to be an Aboriginal company that potentially could do that. But we don't know. Okay? Let's go out to the open market and see if there is. So it's stuff like that, what people don't know, and all of a sudden they're saying they're not there, is hard to swallow sometimes. And what I guess I would like to say to people who are sitting in positions within this room who make decisions about procurement and purchasing, while it's really important for us to look at stuff around value for money, can a company scale up, can they provide the goods and services, don't put your blinkers on and think that there aren't businesses out there who can provide the service. It's just that sometimes we have to look a little bit further.
And now, once again, staying with you, in 2011, you were elected as the Indigenous Business Council's inaugural president. Tell us a bit about that, what it means for you personally, and I guess what you would like to see. You're too young to talk about legacy, but you know, at the end of your term.
Well, to start off with, I'll just tell people briefly what the Indigenous Business Council of Australia is. A number of years ago, a number of people, including myself, who are involved in business, who had been trading for a number of years, came together to have a conversation about, we were sick of people telling us about Aboriginal business and what Aboriginal business should be doing. So, similar to some of the work that was done by our uncles, aunties, grandparents around the health sector in the 70s and right through the 80s, we thought, you know, this is our chance. Let's stand up and set up a council that is representative of business interests who can advocate for business. Now, we've had a very slow journey. We're a not-for-profit organisation that started off as many organisations through just people who have got a common interest and a common purpose. Over the last couple of years since we've been in existence, I'll go back one step. We modelled ourselves off a couple of national organisations. We carry the name the Indigenous Business Council because a lot of our modelling was off the Business Council of Australia through some of their advocacy modelling. But we also looked at the Victorian Farmers Federation, we also looked at the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and basically we moulded our organisation to that. We represent, and our membership is made up of a number of the Indigenous Chambers of Commerce across the country and Indigenous business organisations. So we're not out there to change the world, we're out there to put forward positions about particular issues that come up. Mainstream chambers will take on the issues of daylight savings, they'll take on the issues of penalty rates, all that sort of stuff. That's not in our interest. Our interest is a fair go for the Indigenous business sector. And all that means is business to look at it strategically and say, what do we have to do to develop this so there are more opportunities? What do we have to do to secure opportunities for businesses? All those sort of things. I came in and I was fortunate enough to be elected as the president in the beginning. My term expires shortly and I'll still probably play some role. But the organisation, it's like anything. It starts off small, it comes with people with interest. We still need support to build our leadership and to get the support behind it. People come to things when they become successful and there's activity. So there's a lot of those sort of things that go into play with the Business Council. What I would like to see is that it's a vocal advocacy point, and it doesn't have to be the sole source of advocacy in this country. We get confused about that sometimes, and everyone's jumping up and down, want to be the peak body, and I want to stand for this. At the end of the day, the more voices we have talking about a particular point, talking about an issue, that's where we'll see change. We want to lead that space. We want it to be representative of our membership and their interests. And there's still a lot of work to do to build the organisation, but by the time I leave, I'm hoping that it'll be in a good position to be one of the main advocacy bodies talking about Indigenous business sector.
Excellent, thank you. I have a quote from a testimonial, and it's quite lengthy, so I'll ask the audience to bear with me. Going to university was a challenge. I dropped out in year 11 armed with a know-it-all attitude. After 6 years of work, I made a life-changing decision and enrolled at university. It was hard juggling study, work, time, money and relationships. I did think about leaving, but there was help and support. This and the fact that other Aboriginal people had fought to give my generation access to university got me through the difficult times. Since graduating, my life has changed. University has taught me to see the world from a different perspective. I look for solutions rather than seeing problems. Never underestimate the importance of university. Without a degree, I would never have been able to manage my time and resources to build successful companies. Without a degree, I would not have had the opportunities to travel the world and to do business in other countries or to witness world leaders to speak. Today I'm a successful business owner, author, wealth creator and mentor. If I could tell you one thing, stop thinking about it and enrol today. It's the best thing you can do and it will change your life forever. Tell us about that.
I left school early and made a decision after working for a number of years in pretty much dead-end jobs that weren't really going anywhere, with the exception of the health industry stuff that I was doing, which was very rewarding, to go to university. And an opportunity came up at the University of Queensland, and it did change my life. And there's other people sitting in the room who probably have the same sort of stories. But that was written for an organisation where they're asking, do I see the importance of education? And extremely so. Not only in my business world now, but that continual learning environment, and we've got to strive for that. When I say it's opened up opportunities, I worked in a number of jobs where without a degree I wouldn't have got those jobs. And people sit back and say, yeah, well, you know, it's 3 years or it's 4 years. And I laugh at that because I think, yeah, in the big scheme of things, at the time when you're younger, you might see that as an enormous amount of your life, and in reality it's not. What a lot of people don't know is when I was in my third year of my degree, I actually I had enough. I was sick of being broke, sick of having no money, so I applied for a job with Qantas as a flight attendant. And I got through the interview process and I had landed this job as a flight attendant with Qantas. And the first thing I called was my brother who had gone to university, and I said, you wouldn't believe it. I've got this job with Qantas, I am so excited. He goes, you're crazy, aren't you? And he said, what is it? And he said, what is it that you're finding hard at university? And I said, having no money, being broke, being tired all the time. He said, we'll help you in your last year. You know, so you don't have to work so much and all that sort of stuff. So there's those support mechanisms that are out there. And at the end of the day, when I finished my first degree, I did medicine there. And I would not have got into medicine if I didn't. So it's interesting to see how things happen. And so I think it opens up opportunities. There's a lot of people who are probably getting it now and valuing it. But there's certainly a lot of people who went before me who saw education as the answer. And they were shot down by our own people saying, oh, you think you're an uptown black, you think you're better than us, you know, what do you think? But at the end of the day, learning and being in a learning environment makes you become a critical thinker and you start seeing things differently. And when you're around people who see things differently, it rubs off on you. So you sit back and then all of a sudden when someone says something, you say, that's nonsense, hang on. put your critical thinking hat on, and let's have a look at this and dismantle this and say, is that truthful? Now, in the business world, the stuff that I do is, I go around providing solutions around employment and business. So I often see things that have come up, and it makes me think critically, say, well, what could we do here that's a little bit different? So that education has been an important part of my life, and where I am today is that reason. But one thing I'll add to that, and a lot of people don't realise this, but for the credibility of black fellas in this country, when I'm standing and talking to a business person, and I'm talking to a CEO of a company, well, the fact that I've got a management degree from the University of Queensland gives me some credibility. I've got a work history and I've acquired wealth independently, so that also gives me some credibility. But when we're talking to each other, we're on the same level playing field, that people are looking at me and saying, oh, this isn't some kid who's just come from the bush and who's decided to start something. So it does make an enormous amount of difference, and it's sad that we have to use that credibility, but it does open doors.
I'm sure when I started reading that testimonial, everybody probably thought, well, it's easy for her to say that, she works in a uni. Can I say in Western Australia, the challenges faced by all universities in attracting Indigenous students generally, but Indigenous students, is that we too are competing with the mining industry. We're saying, come and work essentially with us for 4 years to get a basic degree compared with $80,000 a year plus driving a truck. It's a huge issue in Western Australia. And you're right in terms of, and Queensland, and we know we're not alone, but we are pretty parochial and we're here, so we'll talk about that. Marcia, before breakfast, you were telling us actually a really nice story about one of the ways that you work with people in terms of encouraging people to get degrees in that MBA. Would you share that with the audience, please?
Oh, well, I've seen it work, I've seen other people do it, and, you know, I ask my friends to help me do something like it. But if you've got young people who can't make up their mind about going to university and what the worth is, then, you know, it's like anything, you know, bribery always works. So you talk to somebody who's in business, you know, who's got a lovely office on the 22nd floor, drives a high-end car, dresses well, and is prepared to help out. You know, you have to have a plot. So you have the, you know, your friend in business issue an invitation to the students of your university. You take the students along, and so basically his job, you know, your friend's job is to show off his wealth, right? Yeah, I earn $250,000 a year, and, you know, I've been here for 2 years. And so you have to script it a bit. I heard you got a new car, Bruce. Yeah, I got a Porsche. I'm exaggerating slightly, of course, but and you know, you see the young people's eyes light up because they've never been into an office like that. They've never met anybody who earns that much money. They've never met anybody who owns a Porsche. They didn't know that the doors were open for them. And during the conversation, of course, it has to be made very clear to them by your friend, there's no point coming from me, that the door is open to them. And that all they have to do to get this job is finish a university degree and preferably get an MBA. That's all they have to do. But you know, I take every opportunity I can to show kids that it's possible. Because I was just listening to this conversation now, and you know, when you boil it down to its essence, it's Aboriginal people self-exclude. They say, that's not for me, I can't do it. Everybody's opening doors saying, you can, and I say, no, I can't. And it's that self-exclusion that we have to psychologically tackle. So years ago I had a young, she's now bright, famous, successful. She was 18 years old then. Sitting on the plane next to me, we took Japan Airlines, and then we, you know, flew over to Europe that way. And she saw a beautiful scarf in the inline inflation wanted it. I said, look at the price, sweetie. It's €300. Get your calculator out and figure out what that is. You know, this was when our exchange rate wasn't so good. She said, oh, that's over $500 for a scarf. And I said, yeah, but you know, you can have it one day. You know, you will be wearing that scarf one day, but you won't if you become a police officer. You have to be a lawyer. So her big aim in life was to be a police officer in a community, as bright as anything. I said, no, you'll never be able to have that scarf if you're a police officer. You have to be a lawyer to afford that scarf. That works.
And can I ask, is she a lawyer?
No, she's actually a business person. Yeah, she went into business. But you just have to ramp up their expectations a bit, you know? It's not just about opening the door. There's an extra little bit of psychological twist that you have to do with young people. And if that doesn't work, then punishment does.
But it's an interesting point because we've got to have higher expectations. And for too long we've had that acceptance of, oh, well, if it happens, it works out or whatever. But I think we need to start talking about that success. You know, talk about, in the space that I work, you're talking about wealth. People say, well, I'm not materialistic. I said, but, you know, like, I'm independently wealthy, but I don't own a car. So you don't have to have all these material belongings and think that that's what, you know, equates to wealth. So I think we should be able to talk about it. I talk about black capitalists and people cringe when they hear the term. But what happens is we have a look at the wealthy in our country and some of their contributions back to the community. That will be no different for black people who are wealthy and successful. Their contributions back to the community will be the same. So
there'll be more actually. Yeah, because you know, maybe once or twice in our lifetimes we've met a mean, stingy Aboriginal person. How many of you actually met in your life? There aren't many, are there? You know, Aboriginal people are famously generous.
yeah.
You know, and so even Aboriginal people who are, you know, poor, relatively poor, very generous with their time, take kids in, foster kids, you know, always helping out. And as people get money, you know, and acquire more wealth, then they find other ways to be helpful, you know. I mean, look at all the sports people. How many AFL stars have retired and gone off and set up, you know, the Long Walk and the, you know, Wilmett Foundation, and, you know, there are many of them. They're all out there helping. Kathy Freeman.
That's exactly right. So that's the sort of stuff that, you know, let's not beat around the bush and say, you know, well, it's bad. We have people in our communities who want to pull us down. And sometimes, Matt and I have had this conversation, you know, if you sit back and you wait to get acceptance from everyone, well, you're going to be waiting forever and a day. And Joe Proctor said something in a session yesterday that if he was waiting for such and such to happen, he'd be 65 before the deal would come off. And it's the truth sometimes. Our success will inspire other people, and whether we set out to be role models or not, and it's the same with the sporting community. People don't wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to play AFL for Melbourne, and I'm going to be this role model, and I'm going to do this. It happens sometimes.
Can I just add to that, from an entrepreneurial perspective, when I look at we work with about 156 or 7 Indigenous businesses at the moment, and when I look at the businesses that out of that cohort who are really successful, and I define that as being, they are working with 10 or more of our corporate and government members, so they've got contract with 10 or more of those members. The contract values are increased with every new contract that they get. And they're regarded very highly by our corporate and government members. So those businesses and the owners of those businesses, they think differently and they act differently because of it. They do not sit back and wait for the opportunity to be handed to them. They are the ones writing letters, making phone calls, knocking on doors, saying, here I am, this is what I do, this is how I can help you. If they take feedback on board, so if the way they're selling the message is not getting through, they reevaluate and they put a different message out to market. they see themselves essentially as the masters of their own destiny. And they're pioneers in that regard for our people, I believe, because they're changing the script on how we should behave and how we see ourselves, like Marcia was saying. They are not excluding themselves, they are putting themselves way out there, and they're winning. And that's what I think we all need to see more of.
And Natalie, staying with you, what is one action that you'd like people here to commit to and take away that you want them to actually do?
Well, mine's probably a little bit broad and maybe a little bit esoteric, but I think that just having an open mind about what Indigenous business looks like and its breadth and depth is number one. And specifically, if you're a corporate or government buyer, don't limit your thinking around what you think Indigenous business can or can't do. Have an expansive mind, understand the sector and research it, and take the time to understand the motivations of individual entrepreneurs, so you get an appreciation of what they want to achieve and where they're coming from. And similarly, on the other side, for Indigenous businesses in the room, take a leaf out of the book of the successful Indigenous entrepreneurs that some of them are sitting in the room today, like Gordon Cole. Talk to them about, and Joe Proctor and Neil, talk to them about why they're so successful. And if you just spend enough time with them, some of that's going to rub off on you. So that's my two.
That's good. Neil, what would you ask of people?
My message is persevere to get it right, and this goes for both sides of the fence. If you work and you're a company that's looking to buy goods and services of an Aboriginal company, you're not always going to get it right. You're not going to find people, you're not going to have contracts that work out occasionally. You're going to find it hard to sort of manage some of those contracts at times. But what I would say to you is persevere to get it right, educate yourself, understand it a lot better, understand what you're actually doing. 20 years ago when we started playing around in Aboriginal employment, and before then, people had no idea where to find Aboriginal employees, how to bring them into the workforce, how to develop them and move them through. And we've persevered over a 20-year period to try to get it right. That's the reason why we're seeing 8% employment figures and other things around. It's the same in the business space. In Indigenous business, persevere to get it right. For the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander business owners in the room, it's exactly the same message. Persevere to get it right. If you're not winning contracts, you're getting knocked back, have a look at what you're doing. And say, well, maybe I need to pitch it differently. Maybe I need to get my 5-minute pitch down and sounding much better. Maybe I need to market myself better. Persevere to get it right. And that's my message to both.
Thank you. And Marcia?
My advice to Aboriginal people, or
both?
Both. Okay. Well, I can only speak for myself, really. My gig is at a university, and being a professor is a very peculiar job, as you know. And so what I found that works at the University of Melbourne and at the Northern Territory University, which is now the Charles Darwin University, and 18 years of my life has been spent in those two universities, is this. There's no point in being second best. You don't get any brownie points for being second best. You actually have to be the best at what you do. And nobody else can actually be the best at what I do, because they can't do what I do. They can do something else, but they can't do what I do. So it's a personal standard you have to set, and you have to surround yourself with people who think like that as well. So if you're carrying people who don't believe that it's important to be the best that you can be, they will drain your energy, they will waste your time, and they will hold you back. And they don't care what colour they are, just don't do it. My advice to people is talk to them nicely, give them 3 counselling sessions, ask them to leave. It goes to students or staff, you just got to get on and be really good at what you do, because, you know, a lot hangs on your work. You know, you can't sit there in university and think, oh, I can, you know, taxpayer can fund me to do what I feel like doing. You've got to do something that's important. You know, not just for yourself, but for society, for your university, for, you know, for the taxpayers who are funding our positions. What you do has to have consequences. And so, you know, I mean, everybody in the room knows that there's a huge audience out there in Australia who absolutely hate me and hate what I say. But, you know, my attitude is, well, that's a good thing, because I was just talking to Neil about it, you know, take the National Indigenous Times, or some, you know, terrible online rag that's even worse, it's called The Tracker. I'm sure it's written by some, you know, old, retired, white lefty. They're always full of dreadful stuff, defamatory, and nobody takes them on. You know, it's an absolute wonder why somebody hasn't taken a defamation suit against these people, you know. Although one of them's been caught out for plagiarism quite a few times. And it's really important to understand where those people are coming from. They're second rate, right? They don't want Aboriginal people to be successful. Their world will change if we are successful, because they cannot be advocates for us, the victims, anymore, because we're not victims anymore. Very simple, really. Once you understand that, whether you're white or black, whether you're Aboriginal or not, once you understand that, you are free of the toxic argument out there. You just have to free yourself from it. You have to understand it. Once you understand that, you're free.
Thank you. And we do have some time for questions.